Hey guys, what's up? I hope you're doing well, and welcome everyone to another video today here on the channel. What I've got for you guys today is going to be 7 major tips that are going to drastically improve your gameplay. Because let's just face it, PUBG's skill gap is already pretty high and it's increasing by the day, so you definitely don't want to be falling behind. If you're just getting into PUBG or you've been into it for a while but you want to know some tips on how to take your game to the next level, that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. And a lot of these tips are going to be rather unconventional, but they should help in situations that you'll need. If you guys do end up enjoying today's video, we're gonna go for a like goal of 1,500 likes within 24 hours. It's been a while since we've done something like this. I know you guys could absolutely crush it. Definitely make sure to go ahead and also subscribe if you are brand new to the channel. If you enjoy videos like this and other PUBG content, I've got you all covered over here. And last thing, my live streams are now featured over on Twitch, which is linked down below in the description. Make sure you guys go drop that a follow, and I'll see you there for the live streams. But without further ado, guys, let's get into it. So coming today at the number 7 spot is a tip that I've briefly mentioned in a video, but never really extrapolated on or went into detail. This is Foxtrotting. So this is a method of movement you can use to get around that is a lot more safe than just full sprinting. And the way that you can pull this off is by spamming your sprint and timing them in a way where you don't really put your gun down, but you can get the benefits of a sprint, meaning the movement speed and also having significantly less time coming out of sprint, and you can ADS a lot quicker and pick someone off. This technique is really effective when you're chasing an opponent around a wall that you've already tagged up, and then also when you're rotating around a hill and then scanning for anyone who could jump out at any moment. This is the best way to be at the ready for that situation. That said, Foxtrotting is not a full-on replacement for sprinting, because when you're, just running and trying to cover distance and not worrying about enemies, sprinting is going to be still your best bet, as it is still faster than Foxtrotting, even though the speeds are very similar. And also, Foxtrotting gives off a little bit of a different sound. Not massively different, but definitely at least a little bit off. Foxtrotting will also help you get better at crosshair placement, as when you go into full-on sprint, your crosshairs disappear so you don't know where they are. Foxtrotting helps you remain a little bit more centered throughout the whole process, which is always a very good thing. Coming today at the number 6 spot is remembering to use your crouch jump from windows. Now, not only can this be used as a replacement for vaulting, as you guys know, and it's also a very effective strategy of getting out of windows without putting your gun down, which is incredibly important, but this can also be used depending on the window to just sit on the window frame and being able to see the ground under you and shoot from there. Depending on the window, this requires you to be very precise with your movement, so it's something that does require you to put in some practice with. However, if this is a skill that you can master for yourself, it is incredibly valuable in game to game. There are some windows that are easier to do this on than others, but I think it's a good skill to put in your toolbox and have a variety, and especially because each map is a little bit set up different with these windows. There are times though when just simply vaulting through it is not only more convenient, but is just more reliable, especially when going into buildings that you know are not covered by an enemy, because at that point you don't really have any reason to make sure your gun's up. But especially exiting buildings when you don't know what you're about to get yourself into, this is something that I would definitely keep in your arsenal. Moving on though, and coming in today at our number 5 spot is an insanely valuable tip if you enjoy shooting from cars. Typically using one weapon to shoot from your vehicle is easy enough, right? But if you want to swap to your secondary without going to your passenger seat and then doing the complete animation to swap over, what you can simply do is trade out the 2 different guns in your inventory and then remain on the same slot so that you can switch between both very seamlessly. Previously, what you could do, and you can still run this strategy, is jump to your passenger and then hit the swap weapon button and then go out the window, but you can also just simply swap the 2 weapons in your invent itself, and that will do it automatically as soon as you swap to your other seat. It's kind of complicated, but it should make sense based on the demonstration, and if you want to go into game and try this out for yourself, it's really not as hard as it looks. And I gotta say, it's so much more convenient than waiting like the second and a half that it takes to swap weapons normally, just kind of sitting vulnerable in your passenger seat. Not a good idea. But anyways, moving on from that and coming in today at our number 4 spot, this is a way that you can essentially exploit the peeker's advantage in PUBG. Now, this is going to be a technique kind of like quick peeking. To understand the advantages of this thoroughly, you're going to need to know what peeker's advantage is to begin with. Now, in PUBG, in virtually every other FPS game that exists, peeker's advantage is something that's kind of just baked in and we have to deal with. But what it is essentially is the person that peeks gets a couple frames of advantage where they see the player before the person who is being peeked can see them. And what you can do with this quick peeking strategy is exploit this kind of baked in process, I guess, to its full advantage. Now, it's not a glitch, it's not a bug, it's not a hack, it's something that is a baked in feature to almost every single FPS title. This explains sometimes why someone gets a really nice quick peek on you and you didn't even see them before you're dead. That's typically what happens. Quick peeking does come with the risk though, because instead of just holding an angle where you're very precise, precise on it, having to re-peek it every single time may throw you off a little bit with your aim, so it's something that you're definitely gonna have to practice, and it's a hard skill to learn. If done incorrectly, it can actually be a detriment to your gameplay, and you can end up screwing yourself over some gunfights you would have easily won otherwise, so I would recommend you practice it first, and then once you get, a little bit more comfortable with it, start employing it into your public match gameplay. But it's a perfectly valid strategy to use that many top tier players play. Moving on and coming in at the number 3 spot is a very unorthodox tip, but it's been used in theory before and can actually be a valid strategy. This is incredibly situational, but it would involve you taking damage and having to prone out. Now, you can put a gas can in front of your face. If that's the only angle that your enemy can hit you from, the gas can absorb maybe the final bullets in their magazine before they have to reload, letting you survive and maybe getting a heal off or something like that. This really unorthodox strategy actually worked in a professional setting not too long ago, which was very insane. Of course, the problem with this strategy is you run a high risk of your enemy having enough bullets to blow up that gas can if they're smart enough, or maybe the gas can doesn't cover every single angle that you can be shot from, maybe only a small bit of it, but either way, it's something to keep in the back of your mind. It's another use for gas cans if you don't want to refuel your vehicle or use it as an explosive. It can be used as a personal body shield, not at all something you can use in just your everyday gunfight all the time. It has to be a super situational sort of thing, and it's more or less just a weird quirk that you can exploit if done right. Moving away from that and coming in today at our number 2 spot is a pretty interesting tip, to be honest. Depending on your settings, you may already be able to do this. Now, for me personally, I play with my aim down sights on hold, meaning I hold it down the entire time being able to do so. With DMR sprays, however, this can get a little bit messy because you basically have to use 2 different muscles in order to do the same task. Now, if you put your aim down sights on toggle, which I don't know if a lot of people nowadays have it on that, it makes DMR spraying a lot easier. This is a little bit of a personal preference thing, but for some people, they really like having their ADS on toggle and being able to just have incredibly accurate DMR sprays. If that's your thing and you seem to be struggling with it a little bit, then maybe considering put that setting on toggle and see if that changes it all. Of course, the trade-off is that will apply for all of your weapons in game, not just the DMRs, unfortunately, but it's something worth considering. Personally, I really like the consistency that this provides, especially with these longer DMR sprays, but I just don't think it's worth it to trade off for the rest of the weapons in the game. I wish there was a setting just to have toggle on just those specific weapons, but that's not a thing yet, so you really have to pick one or the other. Either way, it's not a big deal. Now, before we get into our number 1 tip for today, I got a bonus one. Now, this has a lot to do with your landing safety, and I see this mistake being made by a lot of players. When you're jumping and gliding towards your distance, you should mostly be flatlining the entire way there and then, of course, diving down, but the thing you shouldn't do unless you're landing outside is cut your parachute. Unfortunately, I see a lot of players making this mistake where cutting their parachute as soon as the prompt comes up. The problem with this is there's a lot of end lag as soon as your character hits the ground, so if you want a bit more of a rolling and consistent start whenever you hit, then you don't want to cut it hardly ever. This feature was mostly implemented when people were getting stuck in like trees and on top of buildings and stuff, and then you had to cut your parachute, but the feature is still in, but you don't really get stuck in the parachute system anymore. It's pretty smoothed out. So unless you're trying to land on top of a gun right away, I wouldn't ever cut your parachute. So coming today at our number 1 spot, the biggest pro tip that you can start working on right now, which is really going to help you in long distance gunfights, is b-hopping while spinning. Now listen guys, I'm not gonna lie to you, it looks just as ridiculous as it sounds, but the advantages of this cannot be understated. This can be exactly what avoids you getting headshotted at a long distance, especially when retreating from a gunfight. It's also very useful when you're pinned down with the DMR and you're on a flat ground and there's no other cover around you. This is your only option left. This can work. Now, in order to properly do this, you can employ a couple of different tactics. First of all, you need to have the bunny hop mastered. The b-hop basically allows you to keep jumping as soon as you hit the ground and chain them together essentially, so that you don't have to go back into a running animation, but you can maintain your current momentum. So once you have the bunny hop down, then you can start spinning as well. This makes your body profile and your headshot position constantly changing, making it almost impossible for you to get lined up for a headshot. And if you want to take it one step further, you can even put a pan in your hands and start swinging that around, or just leave it in your hands to maybe potentially block a body shot. I know this looks and sounds completely ridiculous, but I'm telling you from personal experience, when shooting at somebody who's using this tactic, it's very off-putting and you don't really know exactly how to react. If you're shooting with a bolt action sniper, you might want to give up, especially if they're, pretty far away. With a DMR, it's a little bit easier, but again, it's not as consistent as if they were just running or even just jumping for that matter. It's a great way to keep your movement unpredictable, which is so important in this this game, especially when retreating from gunfights and trying to survive those. I highly recommend you use this when necessary and maybe practice it a little bit to make sure you have the fullest technique down. Basically, the more unpredictable you can be, the better. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much going to be the video. Those are 7 really advanced tips that you can start practicing and will greatly improve your gameplay if used correctly. Now, if you are somewhat newer to PUBG, you might not want to jump into these strategies right away because they are a little bit involved. I also have other videos for beginners and more casual players that are a lot more easy to digest. If you want to go watch those videos, I also recommend that as well if you would like more stuff like this. But if you guys enjoyed the video, please make sure to go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you are brand new to the channel, of course. And before you guys go, make sure to go ahead and follow me over on Twitch. I'm going to be streaming over there. I would really appreciate that. Seriously, thank you so much for the support on the channel recently. The PUBG community is just so strong, and it baffles me every day how much you guys support it. So thank you all once again very much. I hope you guys have a great Christmas if you're celebrating, and here's to a great 2020. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next stream or the next video. I gotta head out of here. Take it easy, guys, and peace out.